morning and good afternoon, good evening to everyone. So as students, we are experiencing a time in education that is unprecedented, and we have been asked by Prime to share our thoughts with the global network. So as a representative of an international student-led organization, I see daily that we students are completely overwhelmed by the current and upcoming short, medium, and long-term crises and challenges, which are all happening in an uncertain and very fast-paced world at the moment. And we feel the pressure to solve all those issues, the pressure to build a better world for ourselves and for our children, and we can really simply be able to have a decent life for all of us in harmony with our natural environment. So one thing for sure is that we cannot live on a dead planet. So even though we feel overwhelmed by so many responsibilities, at the same time, we really want to do it. We want to bring an in-depth and systemic change. We want to be leaders transforming positively and sustainably our society. We want to build a fairer society with no racism, discrimination, or inequalities whatsoever in any sector of the economy and society. However, we feel the need to be well equipped by our higher education institutions so we can achieve all this collaborating. So I have seen many students not so confident. Most of us fear getting outdated knowledge from our studies and not getting applicable knowledge or skill sets in the real world, making the time invested in our studies not so worth it. So what and how are being taught to us is key really for us as students. And we also really wish to find an occupation, either a job or self-employment, which create positive impact and that fits our values and desires to have a sense of fulfillment and purpose. And as Paul Pullman said at the UN Global Compact Leaders Summit earlier this week, what we think, what we say, and what we do should align for our own well-being. It is key that we students get this core principle to lead our personal and professional life accordingly. So my name is Clementine Robert. I'm the president of Oikos International. It's a worldwide student-led organization focusing on embedding sustainability into economics and management education. We work and collaborate with all stakeholders in the field of higher education. I'm French. I'm currently based here in Switzerland, in the German part of it. And today it's my great pleasure to be the moderator of this session to understand what's going on in the mind of a student right now. So please feel free to share any comments and ask any questions that you have in the chat. It's very important for us to have your perspective on the topic we are discussing today. So I see more people joining. Perfect. Thank you so much. It's a great session with people from a geographically quite diverse background, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to this beautiful panel discussion. So we have with us today Andrew Wilson from Aotearoa, New Zealand, studying a Master of Business specializing in sustainability at Auckland University of Technology. We also have with us Charis Wong, joining from Malaysia, and is a Monash University Malaysia School of Business alumnus and currently attached to PwC Advisory. We have also here Lisa and Tricario from Melbourne, Australia, and studying M.B.A. at LaTrobe University. We also have joining us now, thank you, Tony Pin Flores from the Philippines and studying M.B.A. with Business Analytics concentration at the Asian Institute of Management. And last but not least, we have Vinayakram TS from India, studying an M.B.A. in Banking and Finance at TAPMI Management Institute. We're also expecting to have with us later Hams Halvali from Egypt. Let's see if she can join. So thank you all for being here. First of all, now I'm going to ask the same question to all of you. You're a student, and so we want to know what's going on in your mind right now. So we're going to make a round. It's the same question for all, and we're going to start with you, Andrew. What's in your mind?
Okay. All right. Can you hear me okay? Yeah?
Perfect.
All right. Hi. Cool. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Andrew. I'm originally from Dunedin, New Zealand, and I'm a master's student here in beautiful Tamaki Makaurau in Auckland. And I'm a master's student at AUT. I don't know if you can hear the rain. There's a massive storm outside. So what's on the mind of a student right now? Well, before the death of George Floyd on the 25th of May, I would have paid particular focus on adjusting to a life in our sort of new normal. The death of George Floyd was horrific, but ultimately not surprising. It depicted a kind of incident which has been periodically reenacted in the United States, but it's also made students in this part of the world look a little closer to home. So for example, looking over the ditch in Australia, how come 432 Indigenous Australians have died in custody, yet no one's faced any consequences from that? No one's been charged. In New Zealand as well, it's helped put into context sort of our own racist issues. And this is even after a white supremacist terrorist attack last year. But however, on a more positive note, it's helped very quickly in New Zealand students to come together and to sort of reevaluate problematic colonial monuments, which we haven't been taken down, as they're in most of our main cities. And it's also, we've managed to oppose the arming of police in New Zealand's most vulnerable communities, which would most likely, according to statistics, be used against sort of people from Māori or Pacifica backgrounds. So obviously COVID-19 has meant that learning has had to change and adapt. And as someone who's doing their master's in sustainability, I can't help but see sort of parallels of sort of how society we're going to have to adjust very quickly as well. Sort of almost like COVID's been a bit of a dress rehearsal. You know, we're already seeing the problems like, you know, storms and climate, you know, a lot of challenges. And so I was talking to students about me giving this particular talk, and a reoccurring theme which I sort of found was sort of students' anxiety around seeing a return on their investment, or their, you know, to be honest, as students, we're not guaranteed a sort of job at the end of this journey. And I guess that, you know, made me ask the question, sort of, why are we all here, you know? Sort of maybe what is at the heart of education? What makes studying meaningful? See, for me, I didn't finish high school. And so for me to go back to university after to even go to university, it was for me to prove that it was something like possible for me. And, you know, that planted a seed in me, which has grown and taking me to sort of unexpected directions. Like today is a case in point. This is something I never would have ever thought that it would have been in my story. So now I ask myself very different questions, you know, am I making a difference to myself, to my fellow students, and to the wider community? And I wonder if COVID-19 is a chance for us to press reset. Also a chance for us, particularly in New Zealand, to look at the commodification of the higher education industry. You know, knowledge is power. That power should be available to not just those who can afford it. I personally would like to stress moving forward the importance of the university's role in sort of sustainable community engagement, and that's engaging with their stakeholders. When I grew up in my hometown, students would come to town, they'd party, they'd sort of burn couches, they'd spend a lot of money in the local economy, but there was a real disconnection from the community. Not many people who I went to high school with went to university. And that made me think, you know, what are the positive outcomes other than the economic sort of sense to having a university in the town? So I think maybe it's time we start to rethink the whole system. That, you know, a university is not an island, and to emphasize the importance of collaboration on multiple levels in the community. So ultimately, students stand in and share their own unique knowledge. Everyone has their own unique knowledge, and that can also help their other students and the community around them. It will create and emphasize many connections and collaborations as possible. And I think, like, I had a meeting with my professor this morning, and she said something which I thought was really quite pertinent. So, you know, the meaning of education is about setting yourself on a trajectory to being a whole human being. And I think ultimately that will sort of create a more equitable society. So that's all.
Andrew, very true to look around us at what's going on and connect with our surrounding and environment and make a difference and rethink the whole system. So a lot to be done. Thank you so much. Charis, do you want also to share what are your thoughts at the moment as a student?
Yes, definitely.
Wait, so second, you're muted. I'm unmuting you. That's perfect. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So firstly, good afternoon from Malaysia. Very honored to be part of this panel to share what's on my mind and my personal experience over the past 3 months from the perspective of an alumni. So I'm currently a Monash alumni, not a student. So essentially, the past 3 months have really given me the opportunity to observe the impact that COVID has had globally. And a key realization that really struck me was that we are all in the same storm, but not in the same boat. And I'm sure most of you have heard of this phrase. So this is really more than just a health crisis. It's also a humanitarian and socio-economic crisis. So looking at the implications of the current climate that we are at, it actually differs across all strata of society. And the question that I mulled over was, how can I do my part in actually helping the community that I'm in? And this is where I share a short story about my little passion project over the past 3 months. So during the lockdown, my co-founder and I, my co-founder Radhika Divya, shared a kindness movement, started a kindness movement called My Delivery Heroes. And the main objective was to support the frontliners in our community, and more specifically, the food delivery riders who are our unsung heroes and are also the lifeline of local food and beverage businesses in Malaysia. So it started over a very brief conversation, wanting to leverage on a very popular trend that was on Instagram, which was the 24-hour challenge. So we thought, instead of having a challenge, getting our friends to do random things like posting a picture of their travels or a drawing, why not challenge them to pay it forward instead? So then we ideated a very quick and fun way for the community to give back by buying a meal for food delivery riders within their community. And hence the core of this movement was really making kindness a force for good in Malaysia. So my university, Monash University, was extremely instrumental in helping to drive the movement forward. They helped with profiling initiatives and really extended support where required. And with their support, we actually saw the impact that this movement brought to the community, with acts of kindness actually surging since our movement started. So through my personal experience, this clearly illustrates the fact that universities can and need to play an instrumental role in supporting the alumni to drive impact, and more specifically through alumni engagement. So now I'll move into the type of skills that students or graduates should actually be equipped with to create change in the community. But before I jump into skills, as a starting point, graduates should actually have a level of awareness, knowing that creating change can start with anyone. It can start with everyone on this panel, everyone who's watching now. And the case in point is My Delivery Heroes. Radhika and I saw an avenue for impact, and we decided to make a change and create a small kindness movement. So let us normalize this mindset in universities and at the student level. So going back to the 2 key skills that I wanted to highlight, the first important skills that universities need to equip students with is creative problem solving. So really identifying innovative solutions to problems, especially where there are limited resources. And people actually listen when you share how you actually solve a problem creatively with innovative solutions. And an example of a framework in place that students and academics can actually reference to is design thinking. And the second is effective communication. So being able to articulate your ideas, vision, and impact clearly is key to rallying support from your community, because people listen when they see a clear mission and vision. So the most effective way to do so is through the art of storytelling. It was made popular by Disney's Pixar. So equipping students with this ability to tell stories will allow them to connect, influence, and inspire others. So I like to end my sharing with two key takeaways for universities and stakeholders to consider. First is that alumni engagement is extremely important. So your alumni are your assets. Stay connected. Look at how you can collaborate between university and alumni, as the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And the second is that universities need to equip students with the right mindset and skills to thrive in the future. So don't stop at just theory or whatever you share in the classroom, but look at how this can be extended beyond the classroom through clubs and societies, action learning, or even case study competitions. And this is where students will then get first-hand exposure to really learn by doing. So with closer stakeholder engagement, I'm extremely confident that students will be with the understanding and ability to deliver change for the future.
Thank you so much, Charis. Very inspirational. And thank you for bringing also the alumni perspective, the fresh alumni perspective into this conversation. But you're completely right with
Moderator.
the fact that universities and business schools really need to make sure that the students get out of there with the right mindsets and the right skill sets for the future and beyond the classrooms and work, like in general. That's when they are young adults usually, and they are building their own adult life as well while studying. So it's the key role of the institutions. Thank you so much. So now we have Hams Al-Walid with us. Thank you so much for joining. So you are a student, an M.B.A. student at the University of Wollongong in Dubai. So same question to you. What's going on in your mind right now?
So hello everyone. I'm very happy to speak on this platform and share my opinion. I'm originally Egyptian, but I live in Dubai, and this is where my university is. So I feel that now is the time to innovate. It's not the time to learn about innovation. It's the time to really innovate, because everyone is looking for best practices, and there's no best practice in this situation. It's imperative that we all remain flexible and listen. It is a one-way formula, and we all have to explore different approaches to succeed. And I feel like this has to apply in businesses as well as education systems, because as students we don't know, because the way of learning is different, and as education system I'm sure it's also new for the system. So this requires agility to our mindset, the flexibility that will allow us to dynamically shift from our focus and educational value from just the performance zone to the learning zone. And this is really important for the education system to understand and for students to be comfortable with. It is going to, like, as a student, I feel a lot what happens on my mind is it going to be relevant? Is it gonna be happening in the world? So this is the real dilemma. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it's breaking a little bit. So now I think your video is off. Please keep your video off so we can hear you better, and keep going.
Okay. So I'm saying, so the real dilemma is being committed to a class while at home the distraction around is unnecessary, making like family members understand that you're in class time, you shouldn't really be distracted. So it's really hard to be inside, not in a different environment, and still commit to class. That's why I think it is very important that education system look at the mental well-being and like the well-being in general for the students, because it is really tough times for the students as well as the staff or the employees. So I think they have to incorporate their the things that will help students for their mental well-being or their well-being in general, all along the content of any thing they learn. Okay, so one way education system could educate themselves is to introduce blended learning as a lifestyle, not just for crisis management, and creating small community groups for support, and things like accountability partners, or people that encourage the group assignments, communication, because I think this is all what we need to do to feel that we need to do our learning, but also through a dynamic, innovative way. Also, I think that in future it should be encouraging for all students and all universities or schools to encourage innovation incubators, centers for students, and to enhance learning in that direction. Research, workshops, even online forums. It shouldn't be a one-time thing. It should be something like as a way moving forward. And also, it's very important for them to like push design thinking, push subjects like change management, things like this, because this is not just um, like these kind of courses. They are not just like a one-way formula. They give you the skills to kind of like use anything and use what you have to adapt and even make it better. Um, Lastly, I would like to emphasize on the importance of learning through reflection. And as Charis also said, you have to actually start by yourself, but if you're in an environment that does not allow mistakes and does not allow like for exploration and being in the learning zone again, it does not make you feel that you're okay to do a mistake, or you're in a very high stakes place and you cannot just risk what you're doing, whether it's the job or the university. So I think that we have to really push for that, and reflecting all the way, even if you're in a high stake position, like it's not about the letter grade or it's not about a number, because we have to actually understand where our weak points and take it forward. So I think reflection is key, and of course having empathy is one great way to great innovations. So I think observing and then reflecting is going to be the top notch of learning, and it will allow us to stretch our mind and try to find the linkage between any concept and actually the real world and how to make it useful.
Exactly.
That's it for me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
guys.
Hams. I completely agree with the fact that it's time to innovate and remain flexible, explore different approaches, learn through reflection, and put the well-being of students and people at the core of the education for also later being able to do so in society and in the economy as well. Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask Lisa to also share your thoughts on what's in your mind at the moment. I'm going to unmute you now. You can go ahead. Thank you so much, Lisa. We cannot hear you anymore.
Okay. Can you hear me now? No?
Yes, it's
You
working.
can? Hi everyone, I'm Lisa. Technically finished my M.B.A, so very excited about that. So yeah, sort of in the almost alumni. Thinking about the question, just everything happening in the world at the moment, I guess I have found it really hard not to be negative in the last few months. My children are back at school now, so that's helping. I guess if I were to look to the positives, I guess what I would say is that what we have seen is that change can happen fast. You know, in workplaces, you know, 6 months ago we thought things that we thought were impossible, you know, due to cost or compliance or risk management is now, you know, will now be our new normal. And I think that's really exciting, and I think it just shows us, you know, in workplaces as a society and as a, you know, in educational institutions, how you know we can change. And I think Hamza's point was really strong. It's not time to learn how to innovate; it's just time to innovate. You know, the deaf that hit the mainstream media, you know, saw people marching in the streets around the world. That's, you know, it's extraordinary. But I would talk to Andrew's point, particularly in some of the problems we have in Australia as well, that it is frustrating that, you know, not only does somebody have to die, it also has to hit the 7 o'clock news before we act. So it's really, you know, I think it's great what's happening, but it's also incredibly scaring in our own problems in Australia. I'm trying to acknowledge my own privilege and probably not going to talk too much about that. I'm trying to do more listening in that space at the moment. But it is, you know, I think it's just incredibly important for us to not be passengers in all of this, and to not wait for somebody to die or another person to die. You know, we have one woman in Australia every day dies at the hands of family or domestic violence, and that's also not okay. But very rarely does that make the news here either. So not to be too negative, but I guess if I think about all of this in the context of management education, I guess what I would be thinking is let's mainstream it. Let's use the mainstream and make it work for you know, sustainability and responsible education. Let's not make it an add-on. Let's not make it an elective. Let's make it core, and let's integrate it into everything that we do across the universities, through the subjects, through how we behave. There's something about the behaviours and thinking about it all the time that I think the universities could always do better. Can always do better. I can always do better, certainly. I have an example around our experience, and I will speak as a female here. But when I think about the subjects and the guest speakers that we had through my M.B.A, so we had a lot of guest speakers, and it was fantastic, and we learnt a lot, and people gave their time for free, and I think that's a wonderful thing. But when I think back at all of the speakers, I think the majority of them were men, and most of them were white. They're all white, mostly men. And I remember one in particular who stood out to us and stood at the front of the room of a predominantly female class, very diverse class in background, and told us that Australia doesn't have a problem with diversity in the business world. And there was a little bit of an awkward silence for a while, but later in the class, in the same presentation, he also told us that in the real world, the decisions are made at the elite men's clubs in Melbourne, and those men's clubs, I wouldn't even get a seat at the dining table because of my gender. So it was, as you can imagine, there was a couple of frustrated students in the class, including myself. My golden retriever was about to start barking. I'm really sorry. Working from home. Yeah, so I guess around the integrating responsible management into the universities, and that wasn't a corporate social responsibility class, thank goodness, but is being really mindful, and somebody mentioned it before, and I'm sorry, I forgot who it was, but the dog's thrown me, but being really mindful about who we get to speak on behalf of our universities as well, and who we talk to. I know we can't control. I know we can't control what our speakers say, and people bring their diversity to the fore, and that's important. But you know, to sit there as a female student with my other student friends, and to hear that we don't have a problem with diversity in Australia from a white male middle class man was a little frustrating. So yeah, mindfulness, I guess, would be my advice, and calling it out too. I think what I was most proud of was that I did call it out to our lecturer that I didn't think that wasn't okay with me.
Thank you so much for sharing. No problem. I'm gonna mute now, but it was great that you could still focus while having things going on around you. Thank you so much for also talking so much about diversity inclusion, and I think that is very, very important to bring that topic in the classrooms, and it's not something that it is there yet, and we see today that it is really needed. It affects all of us in all different aspects and in different ways, and it's very important that there is this awareness being done there, and explore ways of making it reality, this diversity inclusion in our society and in our economy. So thank you so much for sharing that perspective, and saying that what we thought was impossible is possible, so let's make the impossible possible today. Now I would like to hand over to Tony Pin, and same with you, same question, no surprise here. What are your thoughts at the moment? Please share with us.
Hi, can you hear me well? Okay, great. So answering that question cannot limit it to one response. So as a student, as supposed to be graduating student in the next couple of months, there are a lot of things in our mind right now. These are emotions, questions, concerns. Globally, we are facing different issues, and closer at home in the Philippines, we are also facing our own set of challenges. It made us question a lot about where we are right now. Just last year, we have been introduced to the concept of the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Right now, this year, we are living in it, and we don't know what other challenges we will be facing for the next couple of months. So as a student, our questions are ranging from what we think right now, what we think tomorrow, and what we think, what we are asking for the day after that. So currently, we are asking about, are we getting the quality experience that we have signed up for? It is a sentiment shared across the batch with my classmates. So it is that we signed up for an M.B.A. because we wanted to experience this kind of education, and somehow in this changed platform, are we still getting that same level of experience? Are we connecting well with other professionals, and are we learning relevant subjects or relevant discussions that will help us in the situation that we will be facing after? Tomorrow, we have concerns about jobs. Will we be able to get the jobs that personally and economically would satisfy us? Because it is true here in the country that there are lots of job losses already. So will the jobs that will be available cater to what we will be satisfied for? And in the long term, we are asking how much this crisis could impact us, and what is going to happen in the next couple of years. So despite that, lots of questions and uncertainties, And we understand that this is something that other students might also think about. We are facing one existential question. Right now, we are actually rethinking who are we in this landscape, and can we help, or how can we help shape the next narrative, and hopefully that next narrative will be better, not just because of this crisis, but throughout this crisis and the years after that. So those are the sentiments that we are on our mind right now.
Thank you so much for sharing, Clementine. And indeed, several of you have already been sharing about the relevance of what we're learning and what we are thinking for our jobs. Will we be able to find that later, and how we cope with all those emotions and concerns and questions we have, and how do we move on and build on that? Yeah, I see that some people can hear and see everyone, others cannot. I'm not so sure what to do at this moment to solve that issue, so I will keep going with Vinayakram TS to come and also share your thoughts, and we'll try to find a solution meanwhile. Apologize for those who cannot see and hear everyone. So Vinayakram, what is it that you have in your mind at the moment?
Yeah, I hope I'm audible. Yeah. So yeah, greetings to everyone. I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy. All of your loved ones are also staying safe and healthy in this uncertain times. And to begin with, I'm basically from India, and I'm currently pursuing my MBA, and I'm right now in my second year, and I'm also a convener for a sustainable committee in my campus. So I mean, unfortunately, I mean 2020 has been eventful for all the wrong reasons, and we are surely part of history right now. We are looking at a crisis that has been never seen before. It tragically looks like an unfortunate, what we say, a coordinated shutdown of economies. I would say all the economies are running way below capacity, and because of lack of human resources, most of us are in some form of partial or full lockdown. And every crisis is an opportunity, and that doesn't change here as well. And right now, even the education system has a huge scope for a complete revamp. And like Charis and Andrew mentioned about how a multi-stakeholder engagement is essential for creating an impact through education. I would like to emphasize the point of the importance of primary education as well, because when you talk about sustainability, there is always a section of society which are aware of it. There is a certain very few people want to create a huge change. Only few people want to make an impact. And I think this is basically because we are kind of late in understanding the importance of sustainability. And I think it should start right from the primary education, where young minds should be nurtured about the importance. Because sustainability, as we say, is about inclusion. It's about coexistence. And right now, if you look at the perspective of India, you're talking about around 1.3 billion people. You're talking about an economic development that is fast-paced, and with this, what comes is a huge stress on the environment. So we should look for solutions how we can have an inclusive development as well. And for this, I think it's very important that we start this right from the primary education. We shouldn't look the study of sustainability as something as an elective. It should be something very important as any other subjects that we study across schools or across universities. And when we look at this present scenario, we know all of the students, especially the final year graduates or the postgraduates or the passing out students from the undergraduate program, we are all facing a lot of uncertainty. The unemployment is shooting up everywhere. We are not so sure how it's going to span out. But remember that the only positive, this is the fact that every crisis is an opportunity, and that doesn't change. And even here, as a fresh graduates, as we enter this job market, we are facing this huge obstacle right in the beginning. But eventually we will go through this, just like what happened in the 2008 global financial crisis. It was tough. For the initial 1-2 years, it was very hard, but eventually the people got through that. And right now, 10 years later, when we are able to interact with all the people who went through that crisis, they always say that when they look back, they somehow have the confidence. We somehow went through these crises. We somehow passed through this 2008 crisis, and we have the confidence now that we would be able to face any such obstacles that may arise right now in our professional careers. And same thing applies here as well in COVID, because multiple reports says that this crisis is going to be even worse than that. It's probably going to be the worst one since the World War II. But eventually all of us would somehow pass through this, and you can already see the change among the student community. Everyone are being very competitive now. The online platforms have been leveraged, everyone trying to upskill themselves because they want to stay relevant now. But within 3 years or 5 years or probably even a decade, all of us who are entering right now, we should be able to look back and say that what, somehow we managed, we passed through the 2020 crisis, and we are pretty sure that we have the confidence to face such any obstacle that may arise in a professional career from now on. And that's the positivity that the student community should face, and that's how we should go about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna mute you for the echo. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing this perspective on impact-oriented education and putting this solution-oriented education at the core of it from an early stage till the very end of the education system, and taking this crisis and any crisis as an opportunity, embrace it to make the change happen. So thank you so much for sharing this as well. Now I would have a quick question with quick answers from everyone, very like in 1 or 2 words max. And the question is quite simple: is how does being a student at this time make you feel? How do you feel? And then after that we'll take a question from the audience. Who would like to start? Lisa, maybe.
I feel lucky. I feel privileged, and I feel like we shouldn't take our education for granted.
Thank you so much. Who would like to go next? Yeah, Hams, go ahead.
I feel resourceful, mainly. Like I have access to all discussions and resources and internet, and like it's like, as Vikram said, it's an opportunity, not just something that is hindering my education.
Thanks for sharing positive notes as well here. Tonikin, do you want to go next?
Yes. For feeling anxious and feeling hopeful, right now is the best time to learn, because we are all learning, and it seems that we are all at some point of ground zero. So if we could learn at any point in our life, now is that time.
That's a great sentence to end with. Like we can learn at any time, and now it's our time to do so. Andrew, do you want to come next? Yeah, so the question is, how do you feel right now? And maybe you can switch up your video so we can hear you better. Yes. How being a student right now makes you feel? In 2 words.
Well, yeah. I feel conflicted at the moment. There's so much optimism in the world. I mean, particularly with the younger generations, and then also so many structures and parts of society which need to change. But I loved what was just said, really. I mean, I feel like we're living in quite an exciting time, and that we're living in a historical moment, and I think it's something which I don't think should be taken for granted.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I guess Vinayakram, also you can jump in. Yeah, go ahead. How do you feel?
Yeah, even I would say the words exciting as well as gratefulness, because you just realize how important it is right now, and you're rethinking what is relevant and what is not, and what you have to do about it. And within like 6 months of time, you're way out of your comfort zone. You're trying to be as competitive as possible. So you're just thinking a lot. I think that's a good thing.
Great, thank you. That has come also several times here. Like it's a historical moment. It's very important. Let's appreciate it and move on and do something with this positive. Who hasn't shared? Charis, I think you haven't, right?
Yeah, I haven't shared yet, but based on what I've observed, I'll say that I feel excited because COVID has been the accelerator of digital disruption. However, there is a heightened level of awareness of the inequality in opportunity. So all of us on this panel, we're very privileged to have good Wi-Fi connection, but if you look at the slums of your country, there are students from schools who can't really access educational materials because of the lack of technological infrastructure. So this has really opened my eyes to the inequalities that are in my own country. And the next question is, how can key stakeholders like governments and universities and even corporations do something to ensure that there is equity in accessing resources, especially at the speed disruption is, it's progressing at the moment.
Great, thank you for sharing. There is a small gap between what you're saying and what we're hearing, but it's fine, we can hear what you say. So yes, it's a disruptive time, and it's an nice moment for us to bring more equality and equity in our society. Basically, I completely agree with that. Now let's take a question from the audience, if you are okay with that. And we have one, which is, what would make you feel like you are getting the quality experience that you are paying for in this changed platform as a student? So you can also see it in the comment section of the chat here. Who would like to start and give an answer to that question? Yes, go ahead, Clementine.
Sorry, I also keyed in my response. For us, or for me at least, quality experience is something that can be defined by a lot of dimensions. So for now, we understand the limitations and the challenges of going online. So as long as we were able to keep up the level of engagement, so at the institute, we are learning not just from the professors, but from our classmates. So we relied on that level of engagement and learning from them. So as long as we are able to exchange discussions, quality discussions, and so as long as we're able to connect to different people, perhaps even through webinars or online sessions, that still adds value to the experience that we are having right now.
Thank you for sharing. Peer learning is indeed very important to start with at the university and business schools, because it's something you can use later on all your life as well. So very, very important point. Thank you for making it. Anyone else would like to share anything about this question? So Andrew, I don't know if you heard it, but we are asking the question, what would make you feel like you are getting the quality experience that you are paying for in this changed platform? I don't know, maybe Hans, do you have anything to say on this matter, very briefly?
Are we talking about this platform or just in general, just like what I'm paying for in my university and the quality of experience I'm getting there?
Well, I took it, yeah, I took it, you can understand it in both ways. For me, I took it really platform as the university, but it can be also just the open platform when we're having the experience here. But for me, I found this question was really, really important as well, if we put it in the context of the university, because it's also a platform for us students to kick off our adult life as well, for those who have this chance to go through higher education. So yes, so that was also this perspective.
Okay, so I think I could get I don't feel like we've unlocked the full like experience that I would like to get for the money I'm paying for, because for us here, we have like a small campus just as a part of a bigger campus. And I would love to have this exposure maybe with the students from the other campus and maybe share our experience and have a connection between them, just as a global initiative or something. So because I know the university I'm in is a very good university, but I would also like to get exposure for that and maybe get involved in more networking events and stuff like that that would really enhance my education just beyond class time. Like class is great and discussions in class are great, but as we said, we need to get out of just class and performing well in courses and just get out there and learn more. And that's what I feel is missing. But other than that, yeah, it's good.
Thank you. Excellent point indeed. It's important to connect, I think, during the education, like those years, with other people who are studying different things, who think differently, so you can see how to do so later on all your life, basically in all the different aspects of life. I'm always coming back to that. It's not just about a job. It's not about just a career. It's also personal construction that all the students are going through, either at the beginning because they are very young, or they are changing career path, and so they are also thinking new ways of approaching their career and their life. Is there a last person who would like to say something about this question before we close the session? Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
I was just going to say, really found, and I had finished by the time this all happened, but I've really found the flexibility with LaTrobe to be amazing. So I guess I would say keep that going. You know, having different options for people so it's as accessible to as many people as possible, I think is really important. So yeah, I would say keep that going, and I imagine this creates more opportunities to be able to do that.
Great, thank you. I think that was a good conclusion to that question. Thank you for bringing that in. If you're fine, if all of you are fine, I'm going to close this session with just a quick closing remark, and so we can move on to the next session that we have in the plenary session. So thank you all really for sharing your thoughts here. I think it's very important to hear them, to exchange also among students and for other stakeholders from the university and business schools field to really hear our thoughts here. It was really extremely interesting to get this perspective on how we live, how we cope, how we feel in those uncertain times, with even more and long-term challenges coming ahead. We heard that a lot in that session. And all the stakeholders, including students, including us, need to work hands in hands to have a strong, innovative, and a bold, thinking ahead of time higher education system, equipping us with the right mindset and the right set of competences, right skill sets and attitudes to really become responsible system thinker. We've heard that also today about changing the system as a whole, and the education system needs to, empower us as leaders to deeply transform our society and the economy, and so they can become more equal and more sustainable for all. And when I mean all, I mean all human beings here, and also nature, to be able to all live on this planet together. As I said, when the planet is dead, we cannot do much here. So better to act beforehand. And thank you so much for listening to us and to our thoughts and perspective. And let's try to make together collaboratively what we thought was impossible before a possible for now and tomorrow. So thank you very much for contributing today, and thank you very much for listening and being here. So let's meet all of us in the plenary session for the rest of the day. Thank you, and have a great Global Forum event ahead.